And there's my signal. Progress. So we're going to have sorry. Yeah. Okay. Twice recorder. All set, so thank you. So I'm going to tell you members of the public are invited to attend and participate in the meeting council by in person at Liberty Community Center, or they can access the meeting, which is live streamed on the Middlesex Center YouTube channel, or by contacting the municipal clerk to receive a registration link to join the meeting electronically. I'm going to begin with the land acknowledgement. Municipality of Middlesex Center recognizes that we are gathering on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Lenape peoples. We acknowledge the enduring presence of First Nation, Métis, and Indian people on this land, and are committed to moving forward in a spirit of reconciliation and respect. Enabling First Nations, which continue to live as sovereign nations, include the Chippewa Thames First Nation, Nation of the Thames, and Munsee Delaware Nation. There are no additions to the agenda this morning, so I'm going to look to councillors. Does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Excuse me. I don't know what did that. And so today we're going to start off. We have consideration of the Patent Municipal Drain, and we have Brendan Chapton from GEI Consultants in attendance this morning to provide an overview of the engineer's report. Brendan, I'm going to turn mine off, and then you can turn yours on, and you'll be set to go. Okay.
So here today to present our report on the Patent Drainage Works. As you can see on the screen, the Patent Drainage Works is located west and in the area of Bryanston. Currently, the Patent Drainage Works consist of a drain A, drain B, drain C, and drain D. This report was prepared under Section 78 and Section 4. Section 78 requests were submitted by landowners at the downstream extent to address flooding and erosion issues on the property. Also included in Section 78 request from upstream landowners within Bryanston to address surface water ponding on their properties and around Highway Avenue. Subsequent to the Section 78 request, a Section 4 petition was submitted by a landowner on the west side of Highway Avenue who had a legal outlet for their properties to support severances. We held 2 on-site meetings, one for the request and one for the petition, as well as 2 design review meetings to review the design, estimated costs, and estimated assessments with landowners. Following those meetings, we determined that the existing branch B of the patent drain is in poor condition, is undersized by modern standards for portions, and does not provide a sufficient outlet for properties within Bryanston. As such, we are recommending that branch B and a small portion of branch C be replaced with approximately 1,522 meters of HDPE pipe, concrete field tile, and a steel pipe jack and board on Piper Avenue, ranging in size from 450 millimeters to 525 millimeters diameter. As well, constructed to provide an outlet for the properties to support their severance. This would consist of 250 millimeter diameter concrete field tile for approximately 281 meters. The cost estimate of branch B is approximately $542,000. Of this, approximately $11,000 are allowances, $327,000 for construction, $56,000 for utility work, $122,000 for engineering, that includes the report and during construction, and about $25,000 for net HST carrying cost, conservation authority permit fee. The cost of drain E is estimated at approximately $66,000. of which 6,000 are allowances, approximately $39,000 is construction, and approximately $17,000 engineering and $3,200 other costs. These costs are assessed to properties within the watershed using the modified Todger method, which is recognized as a fair and equitable method of assessing the costs. As a brief summary, for Drain B, agricultural lands are assessed approximately 45% of the costs. Non-agricultural lands, which includes the properties within Bryanston, approximately 25% of the cost. Roads, being Hybrid Avenue, approximately 16% of the cost. And utilities, which are typically in and around the area of Hybrid Avenue, are about 14% of the costs. For Drain E, agricultural lands are assessed approximately 9% of the costs. Non-agricultural properties, approximately 87% of the costs, and Hybrid Avenue being the road, approximately 4% of the costs. Happy to take any of your questions at this time.
Thank you for that presentation. I'll look to council. Are there questions on this document? Go ahead, Councillor Shipley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Brendan, just what is exactly C4 and B3 representing on the map there? Is that like a sub watershed boundary?
C4 and B3, those are details. So, it was a B, I can't see them there, C4 and B3. That would be able to draw number 3, detail B, for drawing number 4, detail C. So those basically they zoom on the line, stand a little bit more, so your contractor can see detail of exactly where they're constructing and where the utilities are located. If you can scroll down on the drawings.
Yeah, I lost it.
Councillor Arts.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Brendan. I got a little sidetracked. I wasn't quite paying attention. Branch B, what percent was considered agriculture and what percent was other?
The assessments,
Yes.
agricultural is approximately 45%. Non-agricultural, approximately 25%. Roads, being Hybrid Avenue, approximately 16%. And the utilities being 14%. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, I think we can just receive that now. Or the motion before us is that council for the municipality Middlesex Centre receives that municipal planning report from GEI Consultants dated December 10th, 2024, and authorizes that the project proceed. And that the Court of Resolution will meet on May 7th, 2025, and further that Councillor Arts, Councillor Shipley, and Deputy Mayor Brennan be appointed to sit as members of the Court of Revision, with the Deputy Mayor being the chair. Mover, please, and a seconder. Councillor Arts, Councillor Shipley, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, thank you for that report, and we'll see you in a few weeks, I guess. Thank you. And now we have our next delegation and presentation. Cara Finn, Director of Economic Development and Tourism for the County of Middlesex, is in attendance today to provide a presentation on economic development and tourism. I'm going to turn mine off, Cara. When you're ready, you can push yours and start.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you to council and staff for the invitation to be here with you today to provide an update on economic development and tourism services at Middlesex County. My apologies into advance for those members of the EDAC committee who have seen part of this presentation previously this year, but this provides some reflection on 2024 activities and also updates on 2025 activities for the county. So, first and foremost, I think it's important to know that the County of Middlesex has a strategic plan, and all activities of the Economic Development and Tourism Office really circle back to our strategic plan. And so noted here are 4 of those strategic objectives and the notations of how we sort of elaborate on our services. It's also important to note that the strategic planning of the County of Middlesex is taking place currently, and we will be developing a new strategic plan and again aligning our activities of the department to that vein. One of the most recent activities and new for 2024 was the development of a tourism investment toolkit. This is something new for the county, and we undertake this project in partnership not only with our internal planning department, but also in partnership with the ministry. So the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Gaming actually participated in providing 50% of the funding required to put this together. So this was a very exhaustive strategy in terms of looking at opportunities for tourism investment in our county across all municipalities. Also looked specifically at not only properties, but ideas with respect to what would be best in terms of that investment. And I'm really happy to tell you that this project was actually done in concert. The winning proponent was C.B. Richard Ellis, a well-known development firm, who we worked with on this. And we were actually invited by the ministry to participate back in November in what's called an investment dragons done by the ministry. So we're very excited to be there. We met with 10 hotel and accommodation as well as restaurant developers at that time. And we're continuing to foster those relationships and build out some additional things that I'll talk about next. So building on that tourism investment toolkit was us looking at commercial investment. So again, a lot of the efforts of the county over the past few years have been placed into foreign direct investment, which is largely industrial based. And we're still doing that work, and we'll talk about that in a second. But we also do a considerable amount of work in the commercial realm. And so again, this year we were able to develop that strategy, which highlights our efforts going forward for the next few years in terms of specifically going after some of those more domestic investments, everything from franchises to other offices, those kind of headquarters spaces and warehouses that are not falling into the industrial realm. Again, I'm happy to say that the ministry, in this case of rural development, found that this was of value and participated in funding this project 50%. Some of you may be familiar with the fact that we do some what we call pop-up familiarization tours, oftentimes with manufacturing. Some of you would have attended ones in the past, such as the one we did at Canadian Curling. And so this is something to watch for, something that we are really happy to be able to provide. And we've done a number of these over the course of the last year, and we're going to continue to do that. So watch for those opportunities that you can come along. Staff and elected officials are invited. It's just an opportunity, even if it's not in Middlesex Centre, to really see what's out there, what's happening in our county, and who is contributing to our economic prowess here. I also want to talk a little bit about community improvement plan partnerships. So as you may remember, for those of you on council at the time, if we were to look back just 10 years ago, Middlesex County had a total of 2 community improvement plans in place at the time. The one for Middlesex Centre had been in place, but was largely focused on the downtown area of Ilderton at the time. Strathroy-Caradoc also had one in place at that time, again, very focused on originally the downtown core of Strathroy and then extended into Melbridges and into the Melbourne area. Fast forward a few years, and the county has actively partnered with 7 out of 8 of our municipalities to not only develop and enhance their community improvement plans, but now that those plans are developed, we continue to work together with your municipality to review your CIP on an ongoing basis, to provide some review and comparison to others and reflection on that. And we also provide 50% reimbursement of all municipal contributions towards your CIP that fall into certain categories. We don't provide a reimbursement, of course, for revenue that is being deferred, such as if you have in your community improvement plan a deferral, development charges or tax increment financing. But we do provide a 50% reimbursement to those things like facade enhancements, accessibility, environmental, and a number of the other categories. So just to let you know that that is happening, we're very proud of the development of our municipalities and looking at their CIPs as a tool for continued investment. I spoke briefly about foreign direct investment, and the county participates in foreign direct investment initiatives and lead generation in a number of different ways. First and foremost, we do our own foreign direct investment lead generation, which means we consult generally with site selectors from a global perspective in terms of looking at what shows would be best for us to attend. We never attend a show without having leads generated in advance, which is we don't go and host a trade show booth generally at these shows. Instead, what we will do is we will have set meetings with people who will be attending that show, who have declared their interest in expanding their operations to our region, and in this case, particularly looking at Middlesex County. So that's ongoing efforts, and we just actually solidified our FDI for 2025, 2026 in the last 24 hours, and we'll be setting course for that. Things will look a little bit different this year. As you know, there's a few things going on with respect to global trade, and so we'll see a little bit of pivoting with work taking place more in European countries this year than they will take place in the US. We also, in 2024, developed a brand new FDI strategic plan, and so that is what's going to set the course of our lead generation for the next 3 years. Regional FDI activities are also a big part of our portfolio. So we know that when we're on the global stage, it's oftentimes difficult to get attention for even urban centers as large as London. And so we work collectively with regional partners from across Ontario for particular lead generation activities. So one of those ways is we specifically target agribusiness through both agri-food production as well as agri-tech firms. And we do that through an organization called Ontario Food Cluster, which I've had the pleasure of chairing for the last 4 years. I'm just giving up those responsibilities now to another municipality. But that group, not only does it have close to 17 municipalities that participate, we also have paid membership in that organization by the ministry themselves. So that's to speak to the value of that regional effort that takes place. So that group will specifically target shows and lead generation for the ag sector. On the other side, we're also part of a group called OMCA, which is the Ontario Manufacturing Communities Alliance. This is a smaller group of municipalities from Ontario that specifically target advanced manufacturing. That group just got back this week. They were in Hanover, in Germany, at Hanover Messe, which is one of the largest advanced manufacturing shows in the world. And we were very delighted to be there on site because Canada was actually the partner company with Germany for that show last week. So lots of great things happening, lots of attention. And you may have seen our Minister of Economic Development was alongside with the team at Hanover last week. We also are making a concerted effort. Many of you may know that in Middlesex County, we do not have a shortage of land. What we have is a shortage of serviced industrial and market-ready land. And so we're putting considerable effort into trying to make ways of bringing more serviced industrial land on site. So we participated with your municipalities in inventorying every piece of industrial land, both that are already zoned, but also that have potential to be zoned, and those that have been flagged in official plans for consideration. We also have a business park page on our website where we actively promote not only those slated business parks that are both private and public, but also looking at the potential of other industrial land opportunities. You may have heard that the county loan program was just completely revamped. Previously, the county loan program allowed for local municipalities to be able to borrow at 0% interest from the county for the purpose of non-developmental projects. So things like fire halls and the like that were necessary and were going to require municipal contribution, but could have required some financing. We've revamped the program over the course of the last year to have a very high priority for industrial development and servicing for development purposes. That program, I'm happy to say, has already started to get utilized, and we expect to see more of that taking place. We also have a few tools in our toolbox at the Economic Development Office that we are able to participate with private and public landowners on. There is a certification program for industrial land available through one of the ministries that we have utilized in 3 situations across Middlesex over the course of the last 10 years. Thorndale Business Park, Glencoe Business Park, and Mulner Park in Strathroy have all gone through a certification program at some point. And those certifications basically make it so that the province realizes that particular parcel of land is shovel ready. It means that environmental considerations have been addressed, as well as archaeological or other site preparations that would be required or requested of a site selector. And so that process is done in advance with investment. We are able to participate in that type of project and in fact have a contribution set aside in our budget to look at a 50% of municipal contribution towards those types of costs. So if and when property owners get to the point of being able to ready it, we can participate with them. That also extends to marketing those properties. So we are able to work together with the ministry if that site is certified to not only prepare the land, but also market the land. And the county as well has funds set aside to participate in that. From a business retention and expansion perspective, this is one of the most important things in our portfolio. Obviously, it's a big part of our job to work with the companies who are already here and foster their continued investment. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, we target one-on-one dialogue with existing companies within our key sectors, and we are working together with your municipality and every other municipality in Middlesex County over the course of the next 2 months to individually speak with 5 to 10 companies in key sectors, and we'll be rolling up that data and providing that not only to county council, but also to your local councils and staff. This is extremely important, particularly at this time, as we're going through some considerable changes and considerable pressures with respect to global trade. This, of course, as I say, is collaborative in nature, and so that means that a member of your staff has been invited to attend each of those interviews. We also have a business appreciation program at the county, and so anyone can go online. There's a link in the presentation with a very simplistic form. If you have a new business or you are become aware, and I know your council has utilized this and your staff, to identify any kind of anniversary or milestone that might be taking place for a company in your area. We're always happy to hear about that. And we're very happy to collaborate with your municipality in terms of highlighting. So whether it be a new business coming in or something that they're excited to celebrate, we're excited to do that as well. We have certain levels of gifts and appreciation that we can provide to that company. Okay. Middlesex County resources, just in case you're not familiar with everything that is available. There is a free business directory available on our site. Many of our municipalities choose to just link into it because it is searchable. by area. It's also mapped. It's also a great tool. If, for example, we have a company coming in who's in a particular sector or realm, they want to know how many other companies are in that realm. They want to know where they're located. We can actually pull up all of that data right there in an interactive map form and show all of that. We do that by name, by NAICS code, by geography, by sector, etc. So we have lots of availability of tools to utilize there. We also have demographic information worked into that directory by location. We have an investor's guide, which again provides a printed as well as electronic copy of demographic information, major employer data, and the like. That is available at your municipal office. Staff have copies of that. We have copies, but it's also interactive online. We have an available properties database. We do this both for residential as well as commercial and industrial properties. Again, this is everything available on the market at the time, but pulled down to the local level so that people are not flooded with other properties available. It really hones in on our communities. So that's available there. We also have sponsorship funding. So we're always looking to partner. It may be with a municipality, it may be with your community futures or another partner agency in terms of the delivery of workshops that will be available to businesses throughout the county. Sometimes we will host those ourselves. But lots of times we look to be able to sponsor opportunities taking place in your community as well. So if at any time you want to discuss something you think would be of interest, and I know we've discussed this at the EDEC table, we're interested in doing that. We do have a newsletter that is available. It only comes quarterly. We don't bombard inboxes, but it is a really good idea. If you would like to connect into that, you can do so right off of our webpage, and you'll get that electronic newsletter. It's got a lot of things that are taking place in the economic development and tourism realm. We also do an annual update. We've linked it here for you, but we've started to bring in a contact management system into our department. So we're able to track how many conversations we're having with local communities. We're able to track a lot of our social media statistics, etc. So all of that's available. We'll continue to do that annual update. I also wanted to mention here before we move on to the next slide, because tariffs and trade are such an important piece of what's going on in the world. We have set up a tariff and trade information session, if you will, coming up on April the 15th. Invitations went out this week, and so those will be circulated to all of you, I'm sure, by staff, but you are more than welcome. We're having an interactive conversation. I'm very excited. We've been able to bring in the Trade Commissioner from Global Affairs Canada for Detroit. And so she'll be with us, Yvonne, and then we also have Brock Dickinson. So Brock Dickinson is one of the heads of the Economic Development Department at Waterloo University, but he is also currently the Vice Chair of Invest Ontario. So I think it'll be a really worthwhile conversation talking about truth and trade right now and what's going on in terms of trends. And we also have a resource page available on the website with everything up to date as it comes. In terms of tourism supports, I just wanted to touch on this. We have a number of things. The Middlesex County's Department of Economic Development serves as the destination marketing organization, or if you've heard the term DMO, for the region, which means we are here to support the delivery and development of tourism throughout our communities. As part of that, we do that under the Visit Middlesex brand, which I know you're all familiar with, and we do a number of things. First and foremost, we have a sponsorship program for events and festivals, and we have 2 levels of funding that's available. One is for repetitive or annual types of events. The other level is to encourage new festivals and events coming into our community. This has been really successful. We did 10 projects last year, around $15,000, but that $15,000 leveraged another 139,000 and brought 30,000 visitors into Middlesex County. So we strongly encourage you to share that information with your constituents, with organizers, with festivals, can be yourselves as municipalities sometimes to spearhead these things, but there's lots of other investments in the community. We're happy to partner alongside with them. We also put together fam tours with a particular focus on tourism. We specifically do a tourism symposium each spring that is for the tourism operators themselves. So that's coming up on May the 12th this year. This is a real opportunity for them to get together, network with one another, and build partnerships. And we always have a fun time spending the day with them. And this year we'll be throughout the county doing that. We also put together a number of publications that I'm sure you've seen. We have a culinary guide, which we've developed. The newest reiteration of that was exciting for us in that it now has a culinary, a cultural spin to it. We have seen a lot of diverse investment in our communities into our restaurants and our catering, which is specific to different cuisines. And so we flagged those specifically to let people know about that diversity growing in our communities. We also, I mentioned, have the Investor's Guide. There's a brand new edition of it. So it has just gotten to your municipal office and is available. But if that's a tool that as council members you would like, we're happy to supply you with those copies as well. Slide, please. We also have a brand that you may have seen called From Our Hands to Your Table. And this is a partnership with Sarnia-Lambton Economic Development and Sarnia-Lambton Tourism, as well as the Federations of Agriculture on both Middlesex and Lambton side. This we started during COVID as a way to really teach people about the inherent relationship between our agricultural producers and our culinary providers. It's a really heartfelt storytelling type of brand. It's available for you to look at, and I think you'll be excited to learn that one of your Middlesex County businesses was one of our last highlights, and that was Proofline Farm. And I'm also excited to tell you that that partnership was developed on our tourism symposium last year. So the owners of Arrowwood Farm and the owners of Proofline Farm actually met each other on that tour last year, started talking, found out one produced blueberries and one was going to be making a new gelato, and they put those together to form that really nice partnership. And that's what it's all about. Video and photography are part and parcel parts of what we do. And so we're continually looking to update our digital assets and resources, and anything that we produce at our level is available to your local municipality as well for use. So for their publications or websites, anything. Our invest in Middlesex, making it in Middlesex videos have been a real highlight. You'll see water there highlighted last year. What we do is we produce those generally in the summertime, and then we set them out every quarter. So you'll see them in a slow release fashion come across all of our portfolios. The businesses also get a copy of all of that footage and all of the photography for their own use as well. And then we're always doing tourism videography and photography. So on a smaller scale, we have a drone available now, and we always are open to contacting our office and say, you know, Kara, we really could use some footage of this or that or the other, or could you come out to an event? And we will try to get a team available to do that for you. Okay. Marketing and advertising are ongoing. I'm sure you're familiar with the Visit Middlesex and Invest in Middlesex platforms. Very active on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on Facebook. Our social media statistics are back in that annual update for you to see, and we've had considerable growth in all of those areas. But we're always on other platforms as well, whether it be billboards in certain areas, CTV for news or other things going on. I know we're filming next week with CTV for one of their weekend updates. One of our things that we did just on March 31st, if you haven't seen it already, is Global News Toronto actually came and spent 2 days with us and went to a number of our tourism operators and spent some time, really great piece. So there's always things going on. What you also need to be aware of is that we have another platform, Work in Middlesex. Middlesex County chairs the Middlesex Workforce Development Partnership, and that's a conglomerate of several employment and workforce providers throughout the county who get together on a monthly basis. We have an action plan that is specific to working on workforce initiatives, and we work together on those on an ongoing basis. Last year, we had an active project with the ministry, and we focused on our cooperative education opportunities, but also on trades and apprenticeship opportunities. We built a new platform with job matching on the Work in Middlesex site. The Work in Middlesex site is twofold. It provides resources to employers with respect to training and opportunities that they can delve into, as well as job matching, job sharing, free job posting, all kinds of resources. And then, of course, on the job seeker side, it allows them to get into the portal, say specifically what they're looking for, and us provide that matching as well. I did want to touch briefly on a Middlesex County Connect project, as it does impact Middlesex Center. So as you may know, Middlesex County has run two particular routes for transportation, public transportation, since COVID. So we launched in 2020. We added a third route this last year. So we now have routes connecting Lucan Badolph, Middlesex Center, London, Thames Center, St. Thomas, Ingersoll, and Woodstock. We've continued to keep that a one-way fare of only $5 for all of those routes. We are currently leading a major assessment of all of our routes, as well as the Strathroy-Caradoc route, which extends from Sarnia into London and comes through Komoka. You'll see it at the Wellness Center multiple times a day. So that assessment is currently in place. We were able to access $50,000 from upper level government in order to do that assessment. At the same time, you may have heard that the funding that was currently provided through CT for these intercommunity transit services actually ended on March 31st of 2025. Middlesex County, however, was given the opportunity to use residual funding to extend our current offerings, and we have committed, as of yesterday, officially, to extending that to at least the end of August of this year. In the meantime, however, as part of this needs assessment, we have also applied for a new funding, which is OTIF funding through the Ministry of Transportation, and we're in very active discussions. In fact, had a meeting with them yesterday to extend that for a 5-year period. So the assessment will identify where changes need to be made, but it is our hope and expectation that we will have partnership, and we did communicate with the province yesterday that we need those answers, hopefully by June the 1st. Finally, we may have heard that we may have discussed that the Economic Development Service has been evaluated in terms of how it's delivered at a county level. My thanks to your CAO for being part of the steering committee, looking at the evaluation of what is happening throughout the region in terms of that delivery and looking at options. We did have recommendations come forward from consultants in 2024 to look at the feasibility of utilizing an existing economic development corporation, which the county put in place in 2018 for other purposes, to see if that would be the best delivery. Those decisions have not been made, but I'm very happy to tell you that the capacity of our department is increasing. This year, we are actually going to be hiring 2 summer students, we're in active recruitment for, one on economic development, one on tourism. We'll be hiring an additional economic development officer, and we're actually also going to be hiring a marketing and communications person for our department, as we are reversing across several brands, and it does get very busy in that realm. We are also looking at expanding our office and creating more of a center for business and economic development in the county in 2025. So in terms of our current team members, obviously myself in the role of director, we have Kelly Hunt, who's a local here from Elderton. And she's doing a wonderful job as our coordinator in economic development and tourism. Then we have Palmer Pickett, who's our tourism officer, who you may be familiar with. He's been with the county for over 5 years now. And Dimitri Makrakos is our full-time economic development officer. And I want to thank you for your time today in hearing some of the updates and some of the things that we have planned. But also to just let you know, we're always here to help. It is very much an open door. We look forward to those conversations, challenges and opportunities to work together with Middlesex Centre to really foster our economic development and growth. Thank you.
And thank you, Kara, for most comprehensive overview of all of the different services and all the boxes that are being ticked by the service that's offered through your department. So I'm going to look to council now. Questions? Councillor Bruce?
Here we go. So through you, ownership to Kara, can you comment, I looked at the business parks listing. Can you comment on the demand for industrial commercial land in the county? I know things are changing with what the Americans are doing, but please comment.
So, in terms of business parks, there's a lot of things happening. I spoke to certification of land, so I spoke about Glendale Park, for example, being one of those parks that was certified. That park is sold out, right? So we have no publicly owned industrial land available for sale, say in the Thames Centre area. Each area is a little bit different. We have a very limited amount in the Strathroy-Caradoc area. Southwest Middlesex is actually undertaking a new servicing of their industrial area. And as you may know, we've had considerable development take place there with the Housing of Ontario Plan propagation. That's a good example of demand and how we have to deal with it at certain times. So in respect to that particular investment, that company was looking for 100 acres of serviced industrial land, which of course we did not have available in Middlesex County. That then became a private conversation with landowners abutting the business park with respect to what could be utilized for an agri-industrial piece. And so those are kind of some of the things that we run into. We don't have enough, to be honest, of serviced industrial land that we can have adequately ready and on site. So those inquiries are consistent. As I said, we probably did over 100 meetings last year with companies who have an interest, but we have difficulty oftentimes in saying, you know, here's a piece of land that would appropriately serve you at the current time. It's chicken and egg, as always, in terms of, you know, do you invest in the land in order to have it readied for the potential for investment? It can come the other way as well, where sometimes we're being asked by the province in order for them to invest in a project with us. They want to know that somebody's right there. So we're always playing a bit of this balancing act. But those inquiries do come. They come across the board, and more often than not, they also come from our existing, expanding where they are because of constraints of land availability, or also servicing availability. So it's not just, the foreign direct investment or domestic investments looking to come in and start new. It's oftentimes our existing companies, and we certainly see that across the board in Middlesex.
And I have Councillor Coles.
Thank you, Kara, for your presentation today. My question is specifically regarding Middlesex County Connect. With the funding possibly coming to an end this August, there's some concerns in the community here that I represent, Ilderton, and because route number 1 does go through that section. So do you have any early thoughts on what's happening there and anything we can do to help it continue?
Through you, Chair, to the council member. Route 1 is fairly new in terms of its offering. So just like every other route that we have introduced, it does take time to build up that ridership. The ridership on Route 1 does tend to be less than what we're seeing in other areas, but that is primarily due to 2 issues. One is population, the other is with respect to education and availability. So for example, Route 3, which now extends from Dorchester into London into the St. Thomas and Southwold area, has had a tremendous uptake in terms of its ridership. But again, that populace is there, and also the education growth does not have to be that great there because St. Thomas has had urban transportation in place for some time, as has the City of London. So it's a bit of a different beast. Is it working? Yes. Is ridership increasing? Yes. And of course, there's always this risk with the funding because people are thinking, well, it might not exist, so I don't know if I can count on it long term. And it is definitely something that we have been advising our upper level government on. It is somewhat unfortunate in terms of the way that the funding models were designed. Had they been designed differently back in 2020, those routes would have looked different from the get-go, and we would be 5 years down the road in terms of what we've been able to bring to market. So advocacy is really important, honestly, from elected officials' perspective in terms of advising the ministry in terms of what is important and having long-term vision and not relying on gas tax, for example, as a funding model for rural communities. When you do the math, it does not work in terms of the rural populace. And if you were to compare the types of supports that are available for public transportation in an urban center such as Toronto versus those types of supports in rural populace, it would look very, very different. And so through the needs assessment, we have had a considerable public engagement, and we continue to have engagement with all of our local municipalities. It will come to a point at which the government is not willing to fund it 100%, and that is the point at which we are getting to. We have asked for the funding to continue until March 31st of 2026 with the use of our residual funding alongside the new OTIF funding. That is the number one answer we're looking for, and those routes would continue through that period. The needs assessment is really about what's going to happen for years, what we call 2 to 5, which will commence April 1 of 2026. So continue to talk to your constituents, continue to talk to our project manager, and then Max Good, who does a phenomenal job of trying to keep up with everything. You may have seen as well, and I've mentioned the needs assessment for Strathroy Caradox route. There are opportunities as well to integrate that into the system that we're looking at. So we're really open to hearing people's desires, needs. That I think is the biggest piece for us is please communicate with us as to what you're hearing so that we know and we can take it in consideration during this period of assessment.
Is there anyone else? I just had a quick question. Where do we access the results of that engagement study that you just mentioned?
The one for public transportation. So that will be completed and presented to county council by the end of May is our expectation. So we actually have another municipal workshop this week. And so we're very active in the process. We've seen some of the initial findings, and it is to be completed by the end of May and presented.
Okay, thank you kindly. And there are no more questions, so I just want to say thank you again. Every time we go through all of this, there's something new and exciting to see and hear about, and very comprehensive content. So everyone knows where to find care of the questions that pop into your mind after. Thank you so much for coming in person today, and we really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have, the next presentation and discussion items with respect to the Coldstream Dam project. Greg Wilcox from St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority is in attendance with update regarding the dam project. Welcome, and I'm going to turn mine off. You can turn yours on when you're ready to take control.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Okay, so this is follow-up. I think I was here in the fall. We presented the preliminary findings of a dam decommissioning study. Studies were done both on Coldstream Dam and the Head Street Dam in Strathroy. We've come back with the next steps if municipalities wish for this to proceed. We're seeking their support. So I'm going to give a quick overview of kind of where we're at and an update on the process. And then I've provided, there's a couple of tables, so a cost and timeline breakdown, and then kind of who the funding sources would be that if we were to proceed with this project. So the cost table is for the work to be completed for the next phases up to construction. So this includes engineering, additional studies that need to be done, construction drawings, permitting, which is a big component, everything right up to construction. The cost table is for both dams, so that's for Strathroy and Coldstream. We were hoping if we can get support from both municipalities to proceed together with the study work, because I think there'll be some cost efficiencies if we can have one consultant do both projects at the same time. And then we've broken down in the costing table a bit of a summary. I'll go over that at the end. So permitting, as I mentioned, we anticipate that to take up to a year. We think there can be anywhere from 5 to 7 permits required to proceed with dam decommissioning through federal, multiple provincial agencies, ourselves, as well as potentially MECP, along with a couple from MNRF as the provincial agencies. So for Coldstream, when we came last time, we had a dam decommissioning feasibility study, and it had about 6 or 7 options. We're hoping to keep the costs down to maybe narrow that scope to what we think are most feasible. So one of the options was a single time removal, all removed at once with no sediment management. We're hoping to eliminate that as maybe not the most environmentally responsible option, as it's going to release the most sediment. Also, we don't know that we suspect we would have a hard time getting permits for that option. So what we were hoping to proceed with is the options of phased removal or partial removal as the 2 options to proceed with in this process of further study and consultation. There were also a couple of options for full sediment management through either bypass channels or full dredging. And those had price tags in that sort of 5 million and higher range. We were hoping to avoid those options purely on the cost. We were hoping to narrow our scope to the kind of the more cost effective that provide some sort of sediment mitigation. So for Strathroy, council at our initial presentation of the feasibility study actually already selected an option. So in the case of the Strathroy Dam, we would only be pursuing the phased removal approach. That's what council wished for us to proceed with for that dam. So it's already narrowed to one option. So for the further studies, it's preliminary removal plans for the selected options and sediment stabilization strategies. To inform that, there's further sediment studies, so a fair bit of consulting costs for a geomorphologist to really assess the sediments and look at a modeling of where those sediments would go for different options and how much would migrate downstream versus how much we think we could stabilize and keep in the head pond when the dam's removed. There'd be species at risk review, evaluation of our impacts to the floodplain. Are we going to change the floodplain based on where this sediment goes and relocates to? And then public stakeholder and council presentations and consultation. The funding, we think is going to take 2 years because permitting alone we expect to be at least a year. So it would be a 2-year process. You can see we've got a total project cost. It's around 280,000. We would anticipate a 50% contribution from the WECI grant program, which requires a 50% municipal match. So that 50% municipal would be split between the two municipalities and over the 2 years. So to just get right to that part of it, the municipal share would be about 39,000 the first year and about 33 the second year. There is no WECI intake in 2025. The program switched from always a 1-year funding program to now allowing multi-year funding. And they switched that in 2024. And so they're not going to do an intake this year. We anticipate the next intake is 2026. So the earliest we would look at, if there is support and a desire for us to pursue this further, would be 2026, 2027 would be the 2 funding years. If we don't receive WECI support, we don't really have any other grant funding program that we believe would align with this work. So realistically, the options would be full municipal funding or more likely delay the project until WECI supports it. That's what we would anticipate. We had originally talked about doing a EA-like process. We have confirmed a Class EA is not required. So we've held meetings with MECP. There's an exemption for dams that were built prior to the Class Environmental Assessment Act if they haven't had any works requiring a Class EA since. So these dams have not had a Class EA done on them in the past, and they're therefore exempted from that process. We would still like to adopt a similar process as, doing all the background studies that are necessary and still going out and seeking stakeholder and public consultation throughout to make sure everybody's informed and that the options we're pursuing align with what the municipality and our other stakeholders would want to see. So I think that's the high level where we're at. And as far as the specifics of the cost breakdown, I'm happy to answer any questions I can.
Thank you for that, President. I've seen the representative wants to speak to this first. Go ahead, Sue.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Greg and maybe probably Rob too. I just want to clarify and get a clear picture here. So you have sent in your reports and came before, etc. And I know, as you said, one of them was to pick an option, which I don't think we picked anything. And you're saying that Strathroy has picked theirs. So I'm wondering, we still would need to pick an option. I assume do nothing is still on the table too. So what I'm wondering about the 2 years and these costs that you've provided, that's just to do the studies, etc. And that's over 2 years, and there would be the work would be done until after, and that would be further costing. So, and then I'm assuming some of the study information would provide more details on which one of the options to pick.
Yes, that's correct. So this is all the prep work up to construction, including permitting, getting pricing to do, revising our cost estimates for construction and any changes to those designs that would be required based on sediment modeling, conversations with our permitting agencies. The original costs highlighted in the feasibility study are just the construction costs that would occur after this. So this is all in addition to what was in that report. So yes, that's correct. Everything's still on the table as far as options. The narrowing of options, we're trying to align the options with what we thought would be most feasible, one for permitting. So eliminating options that we don't think we're going to be able to maybe proceed with anyway, and then trying to stick with what we thought was the most cost effective. But anything could still be on the table, including do nothing, and just looking at future maintenance of the structure and potential future replacement rather than removal. So everything's still on the table.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, as a follow-up to Rob, I'm wondering if Rob has some opinions or input to provide. Sorry to call you out, Rob, but I think I think this is key information. Thank you.
Excuse me. So through the mayor to Councillor Cates. Yeah, I mean, this structure is not a flood control structure. So as far as the environmental impacts, it's not my area of expertise either. So we would rely heavily on the findings of the studies and the recommendations that would come back with it from that.
Councillor Bruce?
Is it okay for me to ask a question? Okay, good. Through your worship to you're the general manager. Okay, whatever. So you think you're gonna get working funding, but this dam is not, it doesn't have anything imminent about it, right? If it fails, what's the impact? Like we ran into this at Kettle Creek. We have a dam. It's deteriorating fast. And we were turned down for WECI because it wasn't deemed to be, necessary, not flood control. We got the boards up. It will go down. So I don't know if we're gonna get WECI funding here. Are you confident that you're gonna get it?
I would say confident isn't the right word, but they funded the study. And my understanding through conversations with individuals on the WECI committee is that they are actively looking to fund projects that remove structures from their list of structures that they fund maintenance on. So these are already pre-approved WECI structures. So whenever there's maintenance done, including last year, we replaced some safety railings and walkways, WECI funded that. So this is on their approved list. So they fund generally work to do with this dam. And so for them to look at getting it off the books and removed is something that they do consider supporting, and they have been supporting those sorts of projects. There's never a guarantee year to year. It's a limited pool of funding. And so if you apply in a year that's soft for applications, you're probably going to get funded. If it's a strong year and there's many, many applications with urgent flood control needs, it may not get supported at that time.
Okay, well, my opinion in looking at this is it's not unreasonable, the funding request, based on what you have to do. I'm just not convinced we have to do anything because it isn't a flood control dam, correct? It's not a flood control dam.
There's no operation to this dam. It was created for recreation. Yeah, it provides some water and sediment storage, but again, it's not meant for flood control.
I have Councillor Oates.
Excuse me. Through Madam Mayor to Greg. As long as we can get funding, I think we should do the study, because sooner or later, everything wears out. So you're better to be ahead of any deterioration of the dam than behind. And I do have a question. When that dam was originally built, there should be a, what do you call that, a sluice gate or something where you can drain the lake? Is that still operational? And if it's not operational, can we get Waikiki to fix it? Because that would be the way to lower the water, wouldn't it?
So that particular dam doesn't have a sluice gate or any stop logs for water level control. It's purely the top of the steel sheet pile controls the level. There was originally, there's a valve which pulls from lower in the dam and provides an ability to drain. My understanding is it hasn't been operable since the early 90s. So it is something we could ask for funding to repair. It would be a big job because I believe that whole area of the reservoir is probably buried in sediment now. That intake pipe plus the valve is no longer functioning. So we could pursue a project to repair that, but it might not be necessary to do if we were going to pursue decommissioning anyway. That might be an expense we don't need. There's other ways we can lower, like we can cut notches. There's other ways they're proposing to drain that for removal. As far as future, if we wanted to keep it and have full function to do future maintenance, if we wanted to keep the structure, I would think we would want to repair that.
Thank you. And one more question. If you do the study, how long is the data good for? Like 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Like to get the study done and yeah, just a timeline from it to when you have to do it then?
Exactly what they would deem good for timeline. A lot of information in the study is not going to change. The piece that changes is each year we accumulate more sediment. So I would hope they would consider the current data once we do the study relevant for at least 5 years, because the structure and the downstream, the geomorphology of the channel, those things aren't changing rapidly. What changes is just every year we wait, there's more sediment to deal with. So I would think we would be at least 5 years, but I don't know if agencies would want more up-to-date data or not if we delayed.
Is there anyone else? Go ahead, Deputy.
You indicated at one point in time that it could be very expensive, up into, millions of dollars to deal with the settlement. How much of a risk is that? And unknown cost. If you take the dam out, then what happens to all that sediment? And what do we have to do? And is that going to increase the cost substantially to the municipality?
So that's the different options that were originally proposed. So there are options with full sediment management, which would be fully dredging the site ahead of time. That also involves, we would then have to really kind of tear the park apart to some degree, because we would have to stage all that wet sediment and dewater it before it can be trucked away. And so those options with full sediment management were the ones that jump from $1 million or in that neighborhood to 4 or 5 up to $10 million if we're going to do full sediment management. The options we're looking at, so a partial dam removal will allow for a reestablishment of a channel, but hold back some of the sediment, with some is going to go downstream. The phased removal, we originally talked about looking at a 3-year phased plan to do it. And what we think that's probably going to migrate to is a phased removal where the next phase is triggered by vegetation establishment. So you lower it a little bit, you remove portions of the dam, it'll expose some sand flats or mud flats, and you try to establish vegetation, and you don't proceed to the next step until you have enough vegetation rooted to stabilize that sediment. Then you go to phase 2, lower it some more. And so that instead of a nice clean year 1, 2, 3, it ends up being triggered more on stabilizing sediment. And because we really think sediment management is going to become the key focus of how we do these removals. In the past, it wouldn't have been something that was stressed as much, but in recent years with big flood events and mobilizing sediment on other projects that have happened in Ontario, we think that's really one of the focuses for the engineers to figure out how to maintain sediment.
Go ahead, another question, Councillor Case.
Thank you through Madam Mayor to Greg. I'm just wondering, so you came here today to provide us an update, and so now what is your next step? Next steps?
So we've reached out to Stratford Caradoc with similar information and are awaiting a meeting to go likely to council there as well, present the same information. Depending on the feedback we get, if there's an option selected to narrow focus to, or if there's funding provided, we'd be looking at applying to WECI for 2026 and 2027, a multi-year application. If one or both municipalities are not in support of proceeding, then we'll reevaluate where we're at. But if the go-ahead is there, the next step is the WECI funding and waiting on getting that so that we have the other half of the funding.
Okay, I look to our engineer for your final comment.
Yep, to Madam Mayor, to council. So yeah, I just wanted to add that, I mean, I would be supportive of council's supporting the funding for this study to go forward. I look at it that any other engineering project we take forward, we would much rather have the engineering done in advance, understand the costs that are likely to come forward. And, you know, if we need to shelve it for a number of years, that's fine, but then we're ready to move forward. So, I think that cost is very reasonable. Our share would be around 70,000 over 2 years. So I think I would support that moving forward.
Thank you for that. It's always good to have an expert opinion. So we'll work with this internally, I think is, we'll have conversations and decide, or do we want to make a motion today?
A motion to
Okay,
provisionally approve.
okay.
Study.
Let's see.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Through the chair, we don't have the exact costing with respect to conducting the study as the engineer proposed, but to err on the side of caution, if they're proceeding forward with this, if we want to propose a motion to provisionally approve the costing to put our share as respect to conduct the study only, and that way council will have better options once this is completed in terms of how best to move forward to be better prepared. So we can table a motion with respect to solely our full portion to conduct the studies that are necessary to get the options that'll be needed to make a final decision.
Hey, Councillor, you had a question? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Shipley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tiffany, how would we fund the $70,000 on this one?
So at this time, so it would be 2026, 2027, so it's not currently included in the budget. It would be coming from the operating budget, so it would be a tax levy hit. It would come from the tax levy.
So then for 26, we put this into a capital budget then, to put money in it?
So since it's an actual capital project, we would just go through operating. There would be ocean and some conservation authority. So that's where you would do it.
Clarifications required. Okay, so just, do you want to say the wording properly or?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Through the chair, that Middlesex Center provisionally supports the costing that'll be set aside in the 2026-2027 budget with respect to our portion needed to conduct the appropriate studies for the Cold Stream Dam. And those funds would be coming from the levy that we pay through the Conservation Authority funds as per the treasurer's comments.
And do I have a mover? Councillor Cates and seconded by Councillor Hartz. I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you again for coming and giving us an update. I appreciate the extra information and we look forward to next steps. And yes, thank you. Alrighty, now, moving on to item number 6. We have a motion before us that the minutes of the Middlesex Center Council meeting held on the 26th of March, 2025 be adopted as printed. Moved by Councillor Cates and seconded by Councillor Bruce. Thank you. All in favor? And that's carried. Next up, we have the consent agenda. These are the items that are typically received, not removed. councillors can ask to have something removed. So is there anything new that we want to speak to? Go ahead, Deputy.
That's that CEO comment in 7.2. Crisis thing that we applied for the grant there. If you could just explain that a little more.
Thank you. Thanks, Madam, through the chair. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. The Mobile Crisis Response Grant is a grant that's applied through our Middlesex County OPP process. Middlesex Center, as you're aware, assists with the administration and governance of the police board. And so this Middlesex Crisis Response Team grant is a grant that's received from the province that enables the police to have set funding that can deliver services, especially in relation to dealing with mental health and social services. And so these are set grants that we administer on behalf of the OPP that they can use to help deliver their program funding. What we understand is that this funding is done in set periods. And so it has come to an end, but as the report dictates through the treasurer, there's further funding that will be available. And with Middlesex Center administering the grant on behalf of the OPP, we want to ensure that we bring it to council for support and approval so that we can act as a flow through to enable the OPP to continue to deliver this vital service to community.
Policing now, the mental health aspect of everything. So I think this is a well-placed agenda item and money put towards this. I think it's very beneficial.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to speak to either of the other two items? Go ahead, Councillor Shipley.
When you through them to Tiffany or the fire chief, 7.3. Is this insurance companies blocking their payment or is it more private individuals?
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Shipley, it's a bit of both. So as you know, we have we attempt to get these monies back from non-residents that have motor vehicle collisions in our municipality, and it is time consuming for our admin staff, and we do work with the insurance companies and the individual depending on the situation and the timing, and that's basically the amount that we're struggling to get, really. Tiff, do you want to add in a little bit on that?
So Ron is correct. This is related, the majority of this one is probably the private individuals. However, we are looking at the process internally, and we will be updated policy committee council that would help us streamline this process with respect to like the write-offs on the fire collections, as this is probably the most difficult collections for the municipality.
Councillor Beers and Deputy Mayor right after.
Just to follow on to this very next question, I was wondering, maybe our analysis should look at, do we even bother with this anymore? It's too difficult to collect. I think the insurance companies are now boxing off their policies not to cover this, correct? I don't know, but maybe you want to have a look at that. And that could be a recommendation that we just don't bother with this anymore due to the problem of trying to collect it. That's it.
Next.
Yeah, the insurance now, does Fire Marquee not handle those? Any money that we get through insurance company, is that not what Fire Marquee attempts? And I would assume that most of this money is from individuals that we bill the insurance companies.
Through you, Mayor, to Deputy Mayor, this is different than Fire Marquee. This is not fire related. This is just MVCs that we invoice out to non-residents. That's what this is. We are successful in quite a few of them. So I would recommend to council we keep on with it. We do look at the cost benefit, and we have done a cost analysis between success and non-success. And that would take a lot of revenue out of fire if we did decide to go that route. So I would not recommend that.
So kids, you have a question as well?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I was just gonna comment on what Councillor Beer said and what the chief followed up with. Maybe it's 30-something thousand dollars, but we don't know, they could be collecting millions and we don't know that, so maybe not millions, but collecting a lot, so I'm not in agreement with
Millions, I can guarantee it.
If there's nothing else, then I'm looking for a mover and a seconder for the consent agenda to move it. Councillor Cates and Councillor Coles, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, now we have staff reports. And the first item up is imposing a fee under the Municipal Act 2001 for the Elmhurst and Parkland Place project. And Tiffany Farrell, Director of Corporate Services, is going to provide an overview of that staff report.
Right, so through the Mayor DeVete, the report in front of you with respect to imposing a fee under the Municipal Act for the Elmhurst and Parkland project is it starts by reviewing the background information. So there are two links to different reports that have been done with respect to the Elmhurst Street and Parkland project and the timeline, as well as all the information that has been shared with the public at this time. This report is actually concentrating on the different options that are available to council and the municipality with respect to obtaining funds from the residents who are getting a direct benefit from this project. This has been already discussed with those landowners that it does impact. The report outlines 3 different options. With each option, I have outlined the pros and like the advantages and the disadvantages with each, and I've come to a recommendation for council to consider. That recommendation is to impose an actual fee within the municipal fee bylaw in accordance with the requirements in section 391 of the Municipal Act. And this would be directly imposed on just the residents that are getting that direct benefit. As part of this process, if council approves proceeding in this manner, we would be bringing another report back to council once we have the final cost that would be imposed on the residents. We would then open it up to any of the residents to come forward if they would like to discuss it with staff or with council. And we would be updating our municipal fee bylaw. Depending on the timing, this could be a separate fee bylaw or it would be included in our annual fee bylaw that we complete in November each year. At this time, we will open it up to council for any questions.
Thank you for that. Look to council for questions. Go ahead, Councillor Cates.
Through you, Madam Mayor, not necessarily a question. I have spoke at length with Rob and with Tiffany. Thank you for that. And with some residents, I've had some response with some residents and followed up on that. And I just want to say that I support the option 3 bylaw. And I'm glad to see that there is an opportunity for residents to debenture the cost of the 3 steps over time and that they're not paying a portion of the road construction or water, sewer, and wastewater pipes and urbanization along the road. So, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Councillor Bruce?
Through you, your worship, to Tiffany, just for clarification, then the downside to the fees bylaw is if they don't pay, what's our recourse is we can't, I don't think we can slap this on their tax bill, can we? And, okay, you can clarify, Tiffany.
So the downside would be the one portion, the stormwater piece does not have priority lien status, which does mean that we cannot collect in the same way as taxes. But we can actually add to their taxes. However, should a property end up in the tax registration process, that amount has to come out. It can't be included when we proceed with that. However, the water and the wastewater do have priority lien status. So, we see we do have there's a letter of motion in front of you. I would ask for moving a seconder of that motion. Councillor Arts and Councillor Cates, thank you. All in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
8.2, that's the update, an overview on our 2025 Vision Zero campaign, and Andrew Giesen, Manager of Transportation, is going to provide that overview. Go ahead when you're ready, Andrew.
Through the chair, thank you for this opportunity to present to you and council today on the municipality's proposed 2025 Vision Zero campaign. This Vision Zero report builds on past Vision Zero activities and looks to implement council's strategic plan objectives around improving road safety for all road users. The principles of Vision Zero are the elimination of fatal and serious injury collisions on municipal roadways. To work towards this goal, the municipality will be employing a 3 E's approach that uses engineering, education, and enforcement to implement the Vision Zero campaign. The Vision Zero campaign for 2025 is made up of 9 action items that cover the 3 E's. These action items cover such things as respect the limit road signs, continued use of the municipality speed radar trailers, use of permanent mounted speed radar display boards, centerline markers, temporary speed cushions, permanent speed cushions, promotion of educational information, sharing of information and knowledge with the OPP and county, as well as updates to engineering design standards. The locations of proposed traffic calming installations, as found in Appendix A through C, are based on feedback from the community, findings from speed radar results, and proximity to large pedestrian generators such as parks and schools. The spacing of these proposed traffic calming installations are based on the industry best practices and guidance from the Transportation Association of Canada, with all installations subject to field conditions, avoiding manholes and driveways and things like that. The majority of the proposed traffic calming installations are also located in community safety zones where the posted speed limit is 40 kilometers an hour. Staff are also recommending moving forward with permanent speed cushion installation along Oxbow Drive, adjacent to Oxbow Public School. This is a higher volume secondary collector road that would benefit from a permanent installation. Temporary speed cushions have been used in the past, but due to the number of heavy trucks using the roadway, they are no longer a viable solution. Staff are requesting council approve the proposed 2025 Vision Zero campaign, along with the appendices A through C as it relates to the proposed traffic calming installations. I will pause at this time and ask if there are any questions.
Thank you. Council comments, questions? Go ahead, Councillor Oates. Oh, I'm sorry.
We good? Through you, Madam Mayor, Andrew, I know when they install the center line markers, they factor in laneways for people going in and out. But I know I had someone in the past say they put it so close, they pulled a trailer and the swing from the trailer. So yeah, just when they're doing it, envision more than just a vehicle. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Councillor Cates.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, Andrew. I just want to say thank you for your, you listen to the feedback and such timely responses, and you work with the community very well. It's a great report, and it's good to see the continued progress. So thank you.
And Councillor Cates was taking the words out of my mouth. It's been a number of years since I remember when we did this, and every year you come back with a report. There's more change, one step at a time. That was the whole point of our conversation then too, that we can't do this all right away. But I mean, technology and the tools that you have and all that is changing too. So I just want to applaud all of the work that staff is doing on this, and how you've integrated resident comments, input, needs, traffic volumes, it's all there. So kudos to all of you. Thank you. So the motion before us is that report PWE 19-2025 Vision Zero campaign be received for information, and that council endorses the continuation of Vision Zero campaign for 2025 as outlined in the PWE 19 report for 2025. So Councillor Cates and Councillor Coles, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, there are no notices of motion on our agenda. We have a number of correspondence items Is there anything anyone would like to highlight or, yes, Councillor Bruce, go ahead.
Leadership to probably wrong. There is no fluoridated water coming into Middlesex Center, is there? I think it goes off to Elgin from this outfit. We don't have any leaks from the city of London coming in here.
Through Madam Mayor to Council Burrs, no, that's correct. Our water system does not have any fluoridation within it.
Is there anything else? Okay, seeing no hands, the motion before us is that the Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre receives the correspondence items 10.1 through 10.4 for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Burrs. All in favor? And that is carried. I look to council, is there any other business? I think the deputy should be doing.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's one other item of business for council's attention. I'm going to hand it over to the chief building official, just to give a quick update with respect to requests from the municipality of Strathroy. Just a quick 2-minute, just so council's in the know.
Through the mayor to the council, just a brief update that staff have had a request from the municipality of Strathroy Caradoc to assist them temporarily with some building inspections while they address a staffing issue and lack of some staffing in their building division. So we're considering it, and it's something that staff we've been delegated the authority to enter into and out of these agreements by council. So it's something we don't have to take back to council for direction, but it's more of an update for council that we're considering that request today.
Does anyone want to ask anything about that? Okay, thank you for that update. Moving on into bylaws, we have two. The motion before us is that bylaws 2025, number 28 through bylaw 2025-29 be adopted as printed. Moved by Councillor Shipley, thank you, and Councillor Cates, all in favor? Thank you. And now the final motion is that Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns the April 9th, 2025 council meeting at 11:01 a.m. Councillor Burrs and Councillor Coles, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. We stand adjourned.